RedVoiceMedia.com broke a video about 2 weeks ago that completely destroyed the false narrative about a violent, Trump-supporting, cop-killing insurrection at the Capitol on the 6th of January. We know the whole thing was a setup, a complete lie.
You need a show. You understand? To show us no attacking, no assault, remain calm.
We're not going to assault. We're going to be heard. Everybody, this must be peaceful.
This has to be peaceful. We have the right to peacefully assemble.
But until now, we haven't known exactly how orchestrated it really was. Micajah Jackson is a Marine Corps veteran who witnessed cops waving people in, moving barricades to allow patriots inside the building, high-fiving people, shaking hands, and taking selfies with the peaceful Trump-supporting patriots. And he also witnessed familiar faces, people he knew to be radical Marxists that had previously been calling for armed revolutions in Utah just last summer, who were there posing as Trump supporters, but agitating and helping the left to formulate this Hollywood script. Jackson has since been arrested by the weaponized Biden FBI. He spent 30 hours in jail. He's facing decades in federal prison, and he joins us now to tell the story, the world, the truth, from a first-hand, first-person perspective, bravely breaking his silence to tell the world the truth about the 6th of January. Micajah, thank you so much for being here. First of all, we thank you for your service as a Marine, and we honor the bravery it takes to come forward here today.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so the thing was a complete setup, a total sham. Nobody has told the story as of yet like you have. Take us through that day. How convinced are you that this entire thing was a total charade?
110%. It was a whole setup, a psyop from the establishment. When we were walking to the Capitol, even before we got to Capitol grounds, I remember directly seeing DC Capitol Police already dressing up in riot gear. Everyone was just peacefully marching and going towards the Capitol. And you see already people dressing up in riot gear. That didn't make any sense at first. And then when you get to the Capitol, I see 2 Capitol officers waving us in. And just thousands of people started going. We get there, we're on the steps, everyone's peacefully protesting. Not even 5 minutes at the inauguration steps, the riot squad comes out of nowhere, starts hitting people, close fists, batons, starts spraying OC spray on everyone.
Nobody's doing anything at this point. Nobody's agitating. Nobody's being violent. Nobody's threatening anybody. No weapons have been displayed, anything. They just are standing there. They are peacefully and patriotically making their presence known, as the President of the United States called for when he invited you to be there. And out of nowhere, you begin being assaulted by people that are dressed as police officers.
That's correct. And even before that, they were aiming their pepper guns at us. It didn't make any sense. I was watching everything take place.
Now, you're a Marine. You've been trained in, some of these combat scenarios. You've been trained to actually handle a crowd like this. Were they handling the situation according to the training that you have had?
No, and when I was in, we actually specialized in riot training for a little bit. I was an 0311 rifleman, and they handled it terrible. And they had control, but then out of nowhere, they just kept getting violent and escalating everything.
So the people that incited the confrontation were those in uniform?
Yes.
Did it seem to you like there was some sort of an order that happened where all at once they just became offensive?
Yes, you could see it in everyone's faces. The captain, he was controlling everything. He was screaming like a girl, cussing at everyone, pointing at everyone. He had no idea what to do. He just kept getting violent and making his officers get more violent.
Unbelievable. What about the crowd before the attack happened? Before the attack by the officers on peaceful citizens of the United States of America? I mean, just those words coming out of my mouth. It's horrific. I mean, I just can't believe that I'm here on a national platform asking questions about this. I have to try to wrap my head around this. Was the crowd, the peaceful crowd, verbally engaging with the officers as they started pointing these pepper ball guns at them? Were they asking them, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And then was there any response from these officers?
Oh, yes. I was recording everything and analyzing everything. There was people on the way back like, why are you guys doing this? Cussing at the officers, calling them oath breakers now, just being disorderly to everyone. And And even before we got there, there was this happy protesters smiling, laughing, hugging each other, getting ready to go support the 45th president of the United States, Donald Trump. Then they just lost control and did some really bad harm. There were women, there was kids in the middle of everything. They were shooting flashbangs with peaceful people standing there, not doing anything.
We've seen some pictures here of elderly people that were there. I mean, these people could physically pose no threat, and they were hit multiple times with rubber munitions. They were gassed, they were sprayed, they were targeted. They were standing near children. I don't know about you, Micajah, but I would not bring my child. I'm a father. I have 3 kids. I would not bring my child to an event where I knew a riot was going to be taking place. I mean, clearly that wasn't what the goal was here.
Absolutely. You're correct. I would never do that too. It was disgusting and it was hideous.
Okay, so take us through this now. You're there and you see the barricades begin to be moved. You see that people are going to be allowed in, they're being waved in, they're being high-fived. Was this before the attack by the officers?
Yes, at the inauguration steps, that was before everything. Then they came out of nowhere, the riot squad, and shooting pepper balls. And that's when I started noticing agitators and dressed in all black. And there was a guy who was shirtless. And I'm not talking about Jake the Bullhorn guy. There was a guy shirtless playing the drums. And I've never seen, as many as rallies and Trump protests I've been to, I've never seen any guy shirtless playing the drums like you see at some of these left-wing communism events.
Okay, and so take us through this guy that's dressed in all black. You recognize him, you know him from Utah. He's a Marxist, he's a radical. He was calling for violent revolutions. There he is posing as a Trump supporter. I mean, I know that you don't have any physical evidence to suggest a theory that these people are paid, but can you speculate that they were there for a purpose to serve somebody in a script that was seemingly written by somebody? I mean, what's your perception as somebody who was there?
Yes, definitely BLM and Antifa agitators dressed in all black. And when I was inside, I remember seeing the chamber doors and there was people in black hoodies busting out the windows, and there was Trump supporters telling them to knock it off. And you had them all around the buildings too, just in different spots, just doing vandalism and agitating people and getting the cops agitated.
So the FBI issued a warrant for your arrest.
Yes.
Okay. They clearly have hours and hours, hundreds or thousands of hours of surveillance footage from the Capitol grounds. They clearly have access to video evidence of non-Trump supporters inciting this violence. They have the same video evidence that you have probably shown them that has been circulating the internet and then removed and deleted from communist platforms like Facebook and Twitter.
Everything.
They have access to Trump supporters saying, stop, don't do that, be peaceful. But yet, these people that were actually causing the destruction, agitating the violence, disrupting and impeding Congress, forcing their way in, are allowed to go free, while people who are encouraging peace and stability and patriotism and discouraging violence and destruction of property are being hunted down by the FBI. What did the FBI say to you?
They got to my house on March 24th. They got tipped off by people reporting on my Instagram and my JFK Report. That's my political page. They came to my house. They knock on the door. My roommate answers. Hey, is Micajah home? Pronounced my name wrong. I already know who I am. I go there. I meet him. Like, hey, you already know why we're here. I was like, yep. We just need to make sure you're not the pipe bomber. And I looked at him with crazy eyes. Okay. And I looked at him too. And I said, listen, I'm not a violent person. I was recording and documenting everything. Then they're like, well, you know, you weren't supposed to be inside. I said, what? I just shook my head, and it was so real to me. They took me to the VA hospital and I got checked in for 5 days. Then my mom and brother coughed up $4,000 each to get me the lawyer in Arizona. Then about 2 months later, they called me without contacting my lawyers first to ask more stuff about the Proud Boys, because I'm not a Proud Boy, but I was with them that day to record and analyze everything. And I wanted protection because I only went by myself.
So you went by yourself to this event. You recorded and documented everything. You're being accused of doing something that you absolutely did not do. All of that is documented by physical video evidence.
Yes.
And yet they're charging you with federal crimes and you are facing federal prison time.
Yes.
I'm having such a hard time wrapping my head around how there are hundreds of millions of people in this country that are not completely outraged by this, that have been completely lied to and taken advantage of by a false narrative perpetuated by a criminal media.
Yes.
Who framed the death of Brian Sicknick, a heroic Capitol Police officer, as a murder at the hands of fire extinguisher-wielding Trump supporters. Absolutely did not happen. They're talking about a violent insurrection that no weapons were carried to, no Trump supporters that have been arrested in this, no weapons found on anybody there that were there in support of the president.
And it was never planned. There was no plan of going to the Capitol, even the riot happening and the violence. There was nothing of that. It legitimately just happened out of nowhere when the DC Capitol Police got violent and started hitting and shooting at people, and the rubber bullets and the flashbangs. Then you had areas where cops weren't doing anything. They were just standing there talking to people, letting people in, high-fiving people. Then you get inside, it's the same thing. You got cops being violent, and you had cops shaking hands, taking selfies, and you had 3%ers and oath keepers protecting cops from not being violent on other protesters or agitators getting violent on the DC cops.
Why do you suppose there was such a difference in the behavior of certain groups of so-called cops than other groups? Why were some of them high-fiving, shaking hands, taking selfies, while others were attacking?
Poor training. Obviously, they don't know each other, and they had a different agenda, or they had people there they knew maybe might have been Trump supporters, and they didn't like them, and they had an agenda for it.
Do you believe that 100% of the people that were wearing badges and patches were actually law enforcement officers working for the Capitol Police?
No.
You believe that there were people posing as police officers that were not police?
Yes, because some of their actions show otherwise and how they handled everything.
We have seen video here at the Stu Peters Show that we have not really vetted. I mean, I don't know how you would change the appearance of a person on video, but we haven't released it yet. I believe that we're working on doing that. There's a line of officers that just simply walks away. They leave calmly while this supposed violent insurrection, this weaponized murderous mob is overtaking the Capitol building where the certification of an election is taking place. They're walking away. These officers appear to be 16 to 18 years of age when you look underneath their shields. Did you witness any officers that were extremely, shockingly young to you?
I did not witness that.
Okay.
But I did witness just cops just standing there and just not knowing what to do while their captain was just sitting there screaming with his head cut off.
So you were inside the building. You were allowed inside the building, essentially invited inside the building. Is that an accurate account?
Not invited, because when I got to the actual Capitol, the doors were wide open already. There was hundreds of Trump people on the wheelchair ramp, just standing in line, smiling, giggling, having a good time, going in. Then you had riot police spread out everywhere, talking to people. Just didn't know what to do. Other people yelling at the cops for being disorderly to people. Then I get inside. There's just people protesting, people going in different chambers, different rooms. And that's when I noticed John Sullivan, the Marxist revolutionary guy from Utah, in his black pants, blouse boots, black boots, just looking around, looking suspicious.
And what was he doing? Just looking around?
Yeah, it was a quick, I didn't realize I had him on video until I was going through everything, and my lawyer has everything now.
Did you share that video with the FBI? Did you identify this person to them?
When the FBI came to my house, the two agents, I even told them that. They looked at each other like this, like, who's this guy? And I looked at him like, are you serious? They're going after regular guys like me and millions of other people. they don't care about these other people. Their agenda is to get this. And when I read my 17 docs report page from the FBI, it contradicts itself so much. And the FBI agents, the 2 agents that were investigating me, they weren't investigating me. It was a retired special agent trained in domestic terrorism. I am not a domestic terrorist. That is disgusting.
If you were to somehow be rendered silent and unable to speak at all to anybody for whatever reason after this interview and never be heard from again, what is the one thing that you would want everybody to know that you don't know is 100% out there right now regarding this event, regarding anything that you've been through?
I want the American people to know that I'm fighting for everyone there on January 6th. I'm never going to give up. If they come and get me, I'm never going to be silent, because that's what they want to do. They took down my social media, and the FBI agents even told me the U.S. attorney wanted to give me felonies in D.C., and he does not like me because I'm not staying silent. I am a fighter. I'm a godly man. I'm a religious Lutheran. I'm never going to back down from the government. I'm never going to back down from no man. I only fear Christ Jesus. And I'm going to stand up for everyone there that was part of January 6th, peacefully protesting, because this is disgusting what we're seeing in our country. The FBI is now the KGB. What we're witnessing is communism and socialism's already here in this country. And that's what I do. I expose propaganda and I expose political philosophies.
There is a very dark underbelly of this government that we are pulling the covers back on one day at a time, thanks to honorable and brave people like you. Micajah Jackson, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.